Things went 0 to 60 in an instant, and I woke up in the hospital not being able to talk, walk, or smile, and being told, "Hey, Dan, you had a brain hemorrhage, so you were just in a coma for 4 weeks, but now you're alive, but you're here and you can't walk, talk, or smile." Well, they didn't tell me I couldn't smile, but walking and talking was pretty apparent. Smiling took a few sessions with the mirror to figure out how to do that, but that's still an ongoing thing. But this went 0 to 60 in an instant for me, and like it was healthy, active guy one day, unable to walk, talk, or smile the next.
Welcome to Bed, Back, and Beyond, sharing positive stories of recovery from serious back or neck injury. Your host is CK, a fellow champion who draws on her own experience with herniated disc surgery. Join her as she talks with others who have overcome the physical and emotional trauma of a painful injury, and discover for yourself how you can find hope and encouragement in recovery.
On today's episode, I am joined by Dan MacQueen. Dan is a survivor of 2 brain injuries, and after learning how to walk, talk, and smile again, Dan now spends his time inspiring others to tackle any challenge that they may face. Hi, Dan. Thank you so much for joining me on the Bed, Back, and Beyond podcast. Before we dive into your brain injury, do you mind just sharing us a little bit about yourself? Where are you from? Where are you located?
Sure, I'd love to. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm excited to be here. I'm calling you today from Vancouver, Canada. I moved back here last year after, 2 years ago, after 10 years in London, England. So I'm calling you from Vancouver, Canada today.
And I imagine that's gorgeous scenery in Vancouver. Is that right?
It's very spring-like today, so it's quite beautiful. It's not always this nice. It's usually quite rainy, but it's quite nice spring so far. So I'm enjoying that.
So what had brought you to London?
So I moved to London after a master's in Sweden. I did a master's in Sweden in leadership for sustainability. Decided that Europe was a pretty cool vibe. I wanted to keep the party going, but language was an issue in Sweden, so I decided let's move to London. I've got an Austrian passport, so that's why I was able to get school in Sweden for free. Moved to London and worked in tech at a company called Hootsuite for 10 years in London. And this all happened in jolly old London, England, so I can dive into that if you'd like.
Sure. How was it culturally from going from Canada to London?
London's busy for Europe, right? It's like the New York of Europe. But compared to New York, it's like a 6, and New York's about a 10, right? So it's
Yes.
like it's quite busy over there. It's quite a lot of expats over there, so it's quite comfortable. I really enjoyed London. I lived in West London and North London, so I really enjoyed that. Good pub scene, good Sunday roast, cup of tea, flat whites. I really enjoyed London. Really had a good time over there.
Was the roast your favorite London meal?
Was by far the roast. Yeah, the Sunday roast. Had a great spot in Anglesey Arms in West London in Hammersmith. Shout out Anglesey Arms. Best Sunday roast I've had in London. That's a fact.
Well, I have never been.
Well, you owe yourself a trip. It's a pretty special place.
Yeah. So 2014, you started experiencing some headaches, correct?
Yeah, so I was, getting these headaches. Healthy, active guy, no issues, no health issues in my life. Pretty healthy. Played a lot of sports. Played five-a-side football, soccer in London, and played ball hockey as well in London. So I was a pretty active guy. I was boozing it pretty good too, to be honest, but nothing out of the ordinary. As a young 20-year-old guy living in London, started having these headaches that were horrible, and they got worse after a few weeks. Taking painkillers like candy from my heart was pounding. I went to A&E, which is accident emergency, which is like ER in the United States, I guess. And, can you check out these headaches? They're pretty bad. And they thought it was vertigo. They sent me home. The next day I was on the tube. The tube's how you get around London. I was going to Notting Hill Gate Station on the District Line, the good old District Line, the Circus Line, that's the District Line. Lumbering towards Notting Hill Gate Station, and my headaches were so bad, so persistent, that my vision would start to flicker and start to come in from the sides, right? Slow at first, but we're kind of lumbering towards Notting Hill Gate Station, and the vision's going for sure. Right at Notting Hill Gate Station, step onto the platform, mind the gap, and the curtain falls. I can't see.
Oh, geez.
So I'll ask you, like, as an able-sighted person your whole life, I imagine, what do you do when suddenly you can't see? Do you have an idea? Because, I didn't have an idea. What would you do?
I guess yell out help is what all I can think.
I stood there and I thought some more, and the vision came back after 3 minutes. But what a 3 minutes that was, and I knew that something was definitely wrong. So I went back to A&E the next day. Again, they thought it was vertigo and they sent me home, but they told me on the way out I could always get my eyes checked in an optometrist. An optometrist, you say, yeah, the eyes are an extension of the brain. Sure, that makes sense. The next day, I found myself in Mr. Patel's chair. He was midway through a routine exam when he stops the exam, excuses himself from the room, and he comes back a few minutes later with a sealed envelope, which he hands to me. He tells me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital, which I did. Well,
Without telling you what he saw?
yeah, just give me a sealed envelope, tells me to go directly to Moorfields Hospital. And I did that. Well, not exactly. I stopped at home first to grab a Jack Reacher book by Lee Child, the phone charger by Teat.
Important
And
stuff.
then I went to Moorfields Hospital. I handed him the sealed envelope that he had handed me. They ran the same test there, and then escorted me up to Charing Cross Hospital.
So you didn't open the envelope?
No, I didn't have to open the envelope. I handed them directly to them because you have to not to open the envelope, right?
I would have been so nosy.
Yeah, well, I figured it's not going to be any help for me to read this because it's going to be like, you have this. And it's like, well, that doesn't look good. And
Right.
Google's not going to do much, so let's just give it to the professionals. But they asked me to Charing Cross Hospital after Moorfields Hospital, right? So I'm thinking we're getting somewhere. This is positive. This is good. But it turns out I had a dangerous buildup of pressure in my brain caused from a non-cancerous system epithelial gland. Turns out I required emergency brain surgery tomorrow. Turns out my world's about to change altogether. So after a frantic back and forth with folks in Canada, the last text message my mom receives reads, I'll see you soon, Mom. Think I'll have a new haircut next time I see you. Love, Dad. Mom was in the air flying to London on June 21st, 2014. I was on the operating table. Something goes horribly wrong. And I have a massive bleed in the brain, a brain hemorrhage. I think the cyst burst when they operated. So Mom lands and finds him in critical condition. My dad actually had to call her before she got to the hospital and tell her, like, hey, just so you know, this one's pear-shaped on us. He's in a coma right now. But I didn't know because I didn't wake up until 4 weeks later. I was in a coma for 4 weeks.
Was that a medically induced coma?
Medically induced coma, that's correct, yeah. So it was, but I didn't want to wake up. So, I was in the coma for 4 weeks, and then they were waking him up, and then nothing. And then eventually I came to with my mom, dad, and brother on the bed. I'm trying to talk, but I can't talk. I had a tracheotomy removed, and breathing tubes removed, and my vocal cords were mucked up, so I couldn't talk. So I go to my partner brother, I go, you, give me a pen and paper. Run the pen and paper, I go, get me out of here. And I show it to Cam, and I point at the paper, like, you, make this happen. Luckily, he did not heed my advice, and I stayed in the hospital for months after this, but things went 0 to 60 in an instant. And I woke up in the hospital not being able to talk, walk, or smile, and being told, hey, Dan, you had a brain hemorrhage. So you were just in a coma for 4 weeks, but now you're alive, but you're here and you can't walk, talk, or smile. Well, they didn't tell me I couldn't smile, but walking and talking was pretty apparent. Smiling took a few sessions with the mirror to figure out how to do that, but that's, still an ongoing thing. But this went 0 to 60 in an instant for me. And it was healthy, active guy one day, unable to walk, talk, or smile the next.
And was the loss of walking and talking due to some brain damage, or was it just brain inflammation that they were waiting to go down?
So the walking was in the coma, my leg had frozen at an angle, so it atrophied. So I had to wear a splint over my left leg to stretch that out. I'll go into that story in just a second.
Okay.
The talking was due to a tracheotomy, and they put the stuff down your throats,
Mm-hmm.
and that ripped up my vocal cords pretty bad. So they told my parents he may not be able to talk again, which is rather ironic because now I'm a speaker full time. But it's it's being told he's not a talker anymore. That's a pretty bold thing to say to your parents, right?
Right.
But I kind of realized the way the nurse got me talking again, she took me out of the park. She goes, I'll get him talking again, right? And she had talked to my parents. She kind of knew my vibe, and she goes, I'll get him talking again. And there's kids playing football across the park, soccer across the park. She goes, Dan, those kids across the park, they don't think you're good enough to talk, Dan. They don't think you're good enough to talk. And I found out pretty quick that that's a good way to motivate me. And I yelled some profanities across the park. They'll spare you and your listeners, but let's just say I found my voice. She didn't make me talk, she made me sing. And I was yelling across the park. The walking was more arduous, more difficult. I had to wear a splint on my left leg. A splint's like a cast over your leg to gently tease out the leg muscle, okay? Now, the first night I wore the splint through the night, no issue, no stress. This will be easy, I thought. This will be easy. Boy, was I wrong. The second night, after 20 minutes, it was painful. After 30 minutes, it was dreadful. After 40 minutes, it was unbearable. I buzzed the nurse to take the splint off my leg, but I told them tomorrow we're doing this for an hour. I'm a walker. I can handle the pain. So I thought. So third night, they wrap up my leg. They tie it off. They give me the clicker, the nurse call button. And they go patrol the Wilson ward. Now, the Wilson ward was an L shape, so short on this side, longer on this side. Okay, short on this side, longer on this side. And they leave me in the hospital room that smells like only a hospital room can smell. Sanitized, sterilized.
Mm-hmm.
It's clean, but you're wondering what sort of atrocities
Mm-hmm.
have been committed under the guise of the scent of lemony zestness. After 10 minutes, the leg's painful. After 20 minutes, the leg's dreadful. After 30 minutes, the leg's unbearable.
I'm sorry, what kind of splint was it?
It's just like a cast you over your leg.
Okay.
Yeah. So I started passing the clicker back and forth, trying to distract myself from the pain. Now I've got double vision from the brain injury, which is why I'm wearing the eye patch today to make just one of you. No disrespect, but one is a very good look. Two is distracting. When I pass this clicker back and forth, right? As the pain ratchets up, my throws get more enthusiastic. Until eventually, inevitably, I drop the clicker and it lands on the hard linoleum floor. 3.5 feet down on the hard linoleum ground. Sugar, I say. I didn't say sugar.
Yeah.
I look over the edge of the bed. I can see the clicker lie on the floor looking back at me. If I can only get to that clicker, I can stop this pain. I can stop this monstrosity. Only problem was to fall from that height might break my arm. In fact, I figured about a 50-50 chance we'd break my arm. A coin flip. Not the best odds.
Right.
I changed tack. I'm trying to undo the split, but it's not up the ankle, not at the hip. I'm not that flexible. I can't reach so far down. I'm lunging at it, but I can't undo this. The word was an L shape, right? Short on this side, long on this side.
Nurses are down all the other end.
They're at the far end of the ward. They came out for help. So I decided to flip the coin. Drop down and grab the clicker. Even if I break my arm, the splint's got to come on my leg. It's the most important thing in my life right now. Lower myself off the edge of the bed, and I crash down to heap. Blankets, wires, cables, all go. The arm holds. And I hammer the clicker, expecting the nurse to come bursting in like the bat signal's been put up. They kind of stroll in 5 minutes later. What are you doing the float of? It's my attempt at British accent. I said, let's not worry about this. The splint off my leg. Please don't tell you all about this. It's not what happens to you, but how you respond to it that matters, right? The reason why I'm telling you this story is to learn 3 lessons from the experience. The first, and probably most obvious, was not pass the clicker back and forth. That's not a good way to go about this. The second was less of the splint up at the hip, not the ankle. That way I can undo this should this happen going forwards. And the third and probably most profound was let's always be solutions oriented from this moment forwards. Focus on how you can resolve your issue, not what your issue is. Now, with the help of the splinters, I'll start walking always the Wilson. On the Zimmer frame first, which is forward walking you kind of lurch forward on. Then moved up to the Ferrari. Now, a Ferrari was a four-wheeled walker in Ferrari racing red I could kind of waddle around quickly on, so I called it my Ferrari. Having fun here. It's a fun vibe, right? I'm trying to create a fun walk. Then moved up to naked walks. Now, what's a naked walk, you may ask?
Yeah.
I'm just walking without sporter aids. I'm walking naked.
All right. Yeah.
But the term was so ridiculous that people gave me such looks like, you're going for a naked walk, Dan? You can't do that here. But I loved it and I played it up. And then I moved into walking and tuning Broadway. Now, can I tell you the story about learning to walk and tuning Broadway? Can I tell you that?
Yeah.
So you haven't been to London, England, you said, right?
I have not.
All right. So let me paint the scene for you, okay?
Sure.
Tuning Broadway is an area in South London, all right? An area they call up and coming. Think loud sirens, drugs, gangs. It's dirty. It's hectic, and boys are busy. Walking with a cane and walking with an eye patch. After 4 months in a wheelchair, I'm literally Bambi on ice. I turn the corner to walk on the high street for the first time. I immediately get slammed into by someone. I stagger back a few feet. Someone scurries past me on the right-hand side. I thought I was done with the rats. Someone had been stabbed on the sidewalk over here. I'm thinking, this is a pretty wild place for them to walk. After a few days of this, I was thinking, this is the worst place for them to walk in the world. Can't they see him trying to walk here? Can't they see him trying here? And then one day my perspective shifted. Maybe this isn't the worst place to learn to walk in the world. Maybe this is the best. If I can walk here, I can walk anywhere. Now, tuning Broadway didn't change, right? But it went from the worst to the best in my mind, and my mood reflected that. What are you looking at in your life you're convinced is the worst? Convinced is the absolute worst. Hey, maybe it is. Or maybe you can find a way to turn down the suck a little bit. Shift that perspective a little bit. Iron Mike Tyson famously said, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. Now, your punch may not be a brain hemorrhage, right? Facts. Will be a job loss, a breakup, a diagnosis for you or a loved one. You will take that punch in the mouth. How you respond? I'm offering a compass, not a map, but a compass. It always points towards true north. Always. Look at things like mindset, perspectives, and hacks. Hacks that will allow you and your team to be better than yesterday, tomorrow. So my name's Dan MacQueen. The reason why I told you I started learning to walk and tune Broadway is when you change the way you look at the world will get changes. And you don't need a brain hemorrhage to understand that. So that kind of takes us up to walking and tuning Broadway. But this was an uphill, arduous climb of a dogfight. And this took probably 5 months to get walking again after the injury, right? So it was a slow go, a slow roll. But it was always onwards and upwards and slow, steady improvements. 1 step forward, 4 steps back, 1 step forward, 5 steps back, 5 steps forward, 1 step back. It was constantly going at this and going at this and going at this. It was a grind. It was a dogfight.
At no point you thought, I just want to give up.
No. And maybe that's me just being naive or just a glass half full, real close glasses, but like this brain injury didn't kill you, right? So you gotta be very intentional with how you think about this. The brain injury didn't kill you. But now it's what you think about it that matters. It's not what it is. The brain injury happened. I couldn't have avoided this. It was a card that came in my hand. Nothing I could have done could have mitigated this. I did everything right. The optometrist caught this, right? The doctors missed this. The optometrist caught this. Like, it wasn't on me. But I'm not going to fold the whole hand because I don't like the card I got. Like,
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to get a hand. They say the odds of being a human being are 400 trillion to 1, right? 400 trillion to 1. Let's say we're on a table, and if you're lucky enough to get a hand of cards, many aren't because the odds are so stacked against you. If you don't like one of the cards, you're not going to muck the whole hand, right? I'm going to play the hand I got. So, to answer your question in short, like, no, I never gave up on this because I'm never going to let go. I was holding on for dear life, and many times I didn't think it would break, but I wasn't going to let go for that. If it wasn't going to come, it was going to come take me, but not because I let go on my own. So I didn't give up on this, I'm afraid.
That's great. Do you think that your leadership training had any help in your being able to switch your mindset like that?
Leadership training. Oh, from the masters.
The masters, yeah, sorry.
I mean, I don't know from that particularly, but like I've got a mindset that's very much prove you wrong, and like I love the strife, the struggle, the fight, the grind. I'm not good enough to be here. Let me prove you wrong. I love that vibe, and I thrive off that. I like it's just like a high octane fuel, and so I use that to kind of prove you wrong. I've always been undersized and dated girls well outside my class and league, but I thrived on that because like I'm good enough to be here, and I wanted to prove you wrong and prove that I'm worthy of all the praise and the people that gave me a chance and gave me an at bat. So I was never going to let this go and never going to go quietly into the night. This was inside me before this happened for sure, but this accentuated it during the process, I think, for sure.
And then you had a second injury in vet, correct?
Yeah, so let's backtrack here a little bit. After walking, I got to the hospital maybe 5 months in, 6 months in. Then did 6 months of rehab at home, occupational therapy, vocational therapy, speech and language therapy. Slowly build myself back up to work 2.5 days a week, 3.5 days a week. Not doing much, going and reading emails, being social at the office. And my routine was I'd meet my mom at the tube and she'd go off on her walk and I go to work. One day I didn't show up at the tube, Gold Hawk Road tube station, and she calls my cell phone, no response. She does it in my flat, and there I am unconscious on the floor. The shunt that's in my brain after the first brain injury had blocked leading to hydrocephalus or water in the brain.
Oh.
It's very rare and happens in less than 10% of cases. So I woke up the next day in the hospital being told, the beeping rate of the heart monitor is going up behind me, like beep, beep, beep. What happened? What happened? What happened? Well, Dan, you had a second brain injury.
Mm.
What do you mean? Like, well, we got the blockage, but you had second brain surgery. And I go, well, all my progress is washed away. I've been for a year to get back to the office, a year to get back to my life, and like this thing just grabs me back down and drags me down to the floor. Like this second injury was much more devastating than the first one because all that progress was washed away in an instant. And like it was the darkest time for me and the hardest to build back from this because I had already done rehab and I wasn't entitled to go back to in-person rehab because I had done it before. But I had second brain surgery, so like, isn't that reset at all? Well, no, we had to do it vocational. I had to fight tooth and nail to get that, like, from an arm distance. And it was so difficult to keep grinding and keep going because that second setback was such a punch to the gut. Like, I just remember like a W, right? The first setback's down here. Kind of climb back up to work. The second setback's not where the first one was much lower. I call it the depths of the human experience. Where your hopes and dreams are kind of stinkered at, like you thought you had a chance, but haha, we're gonna pull the rug from underneath you again. And so I'm down here at the bottom, and this is rock bottom. No, this is bedrock. Now, mind you, it took me about a month to get over this. Like, I was down in the depths for about a
Emotionally, you mean?
month, emotionally
Okay.
and like physically, like to get my head around this. And then I slowly realized,
Yeah.
like, you know what? I had to rebuild back from this. Like, I had done this once before, so I knew all the lessons. All the progress was washed away, but I knew that I could do that. I knew that in my bones that I could rehab better than I did last time. So, like, I slowly got to work. Got working out and walking and doing some exercises and started building myself back up and just slowly chipping away at this block and chipping away at the recovery and rehab process and slowly got back to work. But it was the most difficult thing I've ever done in my life, bar none. Was that second setback. And I used to say, like, the first one took me a month, second one took me a week, last one took me an afternoon. The first one took me 2 months, the second one took me a month, the third one took me an afternoon. So this took a lot longer than I initially communicated, but it was what I thought about it was mattered, not what it was. What I thought about it mattered.
One of the reasons I wanted to include your voice on the show is I told you before the show began that I started this because of a herniated disc experience, and I'm on a forum for people getting the herniated disc surgery called microdiscectomy. Most of us live in constant fear after our first surgery that we're going to reherniate. And then there are people who actually do reherniate. So it's that W, get hurt, get the surgery, start to feel better, and then suddenly you reherniate and you're back to being in excruciating pain and you've lost all this recovery you've made. So emotionally, mentally, it's a hard challenge.
Look, it's not easy when that happens for sure. That W is horrible, and like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
But you know what? I took some solace in was knowing that I had done it once before. Even though the progress was washed away, I knew that I could do it because I had done it once before. So like I just knew that like if I followed the steps and I can expedite that and improve it, you can see the steps. And like I don't want to make this seem light or trite, but like it takes some time to grieve and wallow on that. But like eventually you got to kind of come to terms like, look, it happened. You accept that and move on and acknowledge that. Like acceptance is so key, and that's hard to hear from people because like you don't know my story, Dan. I don't know your story, you're right? But like if you don't accept it, you can't accept to improve your lot, and that's so key for this. Acceptance is key. I don't know what thoughts are on that.
I think it's 100% correct. We have a tendency with the injury to dwell on the woe is me and why am I in so much pain. And I try and encourage people like, hey, treat this as a challenge you can overcome. So mindset, accepting, okay, I'm hurt. This doesn't define me and I am not stuck like this is very important for recovery.
I'm building a new keynote now. It's called AAA Framework, and it's got acknowledge, accept, and adapt. Let me
Wow.
walk through the process so you can understand what I'm talking about. Acknowledge. Head, you're thinking about things. I had a brain injury. I had a bulge disc in my back. I had a bulge disc. First thing you gotta understand with your head, like what are the terms I'm on now? What is the playing field? Second one's I had a bulge disc. You gotta like feel it and like believe it. Like I had a bulge disc. And the last one's I had a bulge disc in my hands. What can I do to improve my lot and improve that vibe? Like yoga, swimming, walking, teasing it out, tension, occupational therapy. Like you got to work through the gamut of like I had a brain injury, I had a brain injury, I had a brain injury, and follow the head, the heart, the hands. Because when you get to the hands, that's how you improve your lot and take steps to improve yourself and mitigate the risks going forwards. But acceptance is the key for all this, really.
So at what point in your recovery did you say to yourself, hey, I have some wonderful insight that I think I need to share with the world.
I was on a trip to New York visiting my brother, and go for a coffee at a coffee shop. It's funny how I remember this so clearly. I had this epiphany of like these lessons I learned and these slides I could build and this talk I could build. And like I just built this whole presentation in an afternoon for my old NHS rehab center. Wolfson Rehab Center showed out. And I used to give this talk for them once a quarter to showcase how to live life outside of rehab. You know, you're in the nerfed up walls of the hospital, and then you're suddenly in the real world, and that's a big shift, big change in vibe, and like it's very. I mean, the hospital's not pleasant, but the real world is not nerfed up, and it's some hard corners and hard edges, and you smack into them pretty good if you're not prepared for it. So like, I wanted to show them like how you navigate this and showcase some lessons I've learned. And so a lot of it's mindset based, but a lot of it's like hacks and fun stuff like this that bring some levity to the situation and show them some hope. And hope for me is not hold your breath and just hope things get better. It's like constantly testing, trial and error testing, and like incrementally improving your lot, working your way up and improving your lot. Always trial and error, always better than yesterday. And I gave this talk maybe, I don't know, 8 times or so. And then I gave it for my old company, Hootsuite, in London, in person and in the office. And then I gave it Vancouver online as well, probably about maybe 6 months before I got let go from my job for a corporate restructuring. And I had so much good feedback from that talk that I realized, this is a real career path for me. I can do this. The lessons I've learned from this are pretty mic drop moments, and they're not insignificant. They're not small things. Like they're really intense lessons. Like, don't go this way, go this way. Like that's a honey trap. Like avoid this. Think about it in this perspective. Like, is it the worst or is it the best? Like, reframe that stuff. Like, is it the worst? And like, I don't know. I want to share the lessons I've learned because I had a lot of help. Right? I had a lot of help to get back to women today. And like, if you don't have that help, you're finished. Like, you're finished. Like, I had so much help, and I want to just give this to you because if you're going through a tough time, maybe you don't have the help I had, right? And I've got all these lessons learned. Like, I want to just give them to you for a reasonable price. For those listening for speaking fees, but like it's why not? Why not?
It's rewarding, to know that you're helping other people switch a mindset and learn to accept what's happening.
Well, everyone thinks it's the hardest thing in the world, right? But the hardest thing that's ever happened to you is the hardest thing that's ever happened to you.
Hmm.
You can't compare apples to apples. You can't compare a slip disc to like a brain hemorrhage. Like it's all different. It's all relative.
Right.
The hardest thing that's ever happened to you is the hardest thing that's ever happened to you. But like, there are some similarities between this, and a lot of it is a mental game. Initially, I was asked, "What's the most difficult thing?" And I said, "Physical, no doubt." I played all the sports in the world: soccer, hockey, volleyball, softball, skiing. I played everything, and I was in a wheelchair. It's physical, no doubt. It was by far the mental, the soft skills that I lost, the ability to read a room, the ability to like be socially inept and capable. That was the most difficult thing to come back from and to adapt from. Physical was tough, but like it didn't hold a candle to the social skills and stuff I lost as well.
So, how do you coach people to switch their mindset?
Look, I tell my story not so much to be like, look at how great Dan is.
Sure.
Your words, not mine. Your words, not mine.
Yes.
But it's mostly so like how he can do this. Why can't I? It's possible.
Hmm.
And I tell you stories about what I've been through so you understand, well, he did it. Why can't I do it? I did this brain test last year around this time, Health Tech Connects, big brain injury clinic in Surrey, BC, Canada. Shout out Health Tech Connects. I actually did keynote for them a little while ago as well. And my results came back as average, right? 2 brain injuries, brain surgeries, weeks in a coma, have learned how to walk, talk, and smile again. My results came back as average. And I was like, that's remarkable. That's really good. But I read it as shockingly average. Because I was expecting there to be big ups, big downs, big gaps, big ups, big downs, right? I recovered so well. Much better than anyone else thought I could. But then I realized, like, you know what? Average is good because it means I'm no smarter or better than anyone on the call today. I'm just maybe more driven and focused on what I want to achieve. It means that you can do this too. I'm just toes over the nose of my surfboard, riding this wave down and making this happen. But that means that you can do this too. One more story I want to share with your group. You see, I'm wearing an eye patch today. It's not because I'm a confused pirate, although that has been known in the past. I had surgery in the left eye recently, and it's changed my perspective on everything. I had 3 surgeries on the eye, on the right eye, one on the left, And the one on the left changed it. So my eyes are like this, double vision like this.
Mm-hmm.
This has changed it to this, and then it flutters a little bit now. So it's really confusing to look. And my dad asked me just after the eye surgery, he goes, Dan, do you regret having the eye surgery? And I said, yes, of course, it's changed everything. But as I thought about it more and more, I'm reminded of the story of the horse, the boy, the fox, and the mole. And a
Mm.
boy's walking through a thick wood, right?
Yep.
And he yells back at the horse, he goes, I can't see a way through. And the horse says, can you see your next step? And the boy says, yeah. And the horse says, well, then just take that. What I was doing the eye surgery was just taking the next step, the next available thing I could do. And it backfired. And I got to be okay with that because I'm trying to improve my life. I'm trying to take the next best step. I'm not settling for the life I have. I'm chasing down the life I want. But look, this is harder than all hell to navigate without the eye patch. So I'm wearing the eye patch now. But I'm taking that next step. And I don't ever want to lose that taking the next step capability. Because that's how you improve your lot. That's how you're better than yesterday. That's how you improve your lot. But that's a mindset you got to have on board and be okay with that. You got to be okay with the occasional failure. The micro failure for the massive success. At least what I'm hoping for. And look, I'm meeting with the eye specialist on Tuesday, the neuro-ophthalmologist, a big specialist in Vancouver. And we're going to start to explore what might have gone wrong with the eye surgery, what's wrong with the brain, to understand why this has happened. I want to push for more surgery, but then I want to just spray and pray, which I may be a bit too cavalier with. But like, it's better than yesterday, and it's chasing down this goal of taking the next step that I want to show in the group. Because, like, look, it might backfire, but you can't let that dictate your mindset. Always forward, always forward, always forward. And sometimes it's going to blow up in your face or eye, depending on how you want to look at it. But like, I don't want to regret that decision, so I don't regret that at all.
Did I see that you set a skiing goal for yourself?
Yeah, you did. So actually, 2 years ago, I skied at Grouse Mountain. I used to grow up being a ski racer, an instructor after uni for a year, and I was working on the even bars on the rehab team. And they asked me what I was most looking forward to back to doing. And I thought about this for a second. It's a big question. I thought, and I told them, growing up, I played everything: soccer, hockey, volleyball, softball, skiing. And I told them I want to ski again. They paused and said, okay. Looked at each other. Nothing happened of it. But that, because I said it out loud, it kind of burned that in the back of my mind, right? So 2022 was 10 years from the last ski trip I went on. Last time I was skiing. My goal to go skiing. So in March, we took the skis in the shop. They could get waxed, they could get sharpened. They couldn't adjust my bindings. Those are tools we worked on, they told me. For a lot of reasons, they couldn't touch them. So took a stab March 31st, we landed on sun, which is key because you ski in the springtime. If it's rain on the base, you're rain on the slopes. So we went to the Grouse Mountain Super Sky Ride. Now, as an old ski racing bum, I remember an old hack at the bottom of the Grouse Mountain Super Sky Ride. To be the last one on the gondola, that way you can rest your skis and poles and the doors are closed behind you. It's a real OG hack. Lets you think that you belong on the hill, right? So I'm riding up Hansie with the boys, Andrew and RJ. We're cruising up the gondola, over the first tower, big forwards, big back. I'm thinking to myself, like, I hope it comes back. It better come back. This is going to be pretty embarrassing if it doesn't. If you don't close your eyes, please, for a second, I'll take it to the last leg of the hill, please. So close your eyes for a second, please. Feel the nipple cold in your cheek. Not a lot, but enough to let you know you're at altitude. We're going to dock at the station. You can walk through the station with your gear. Clomp, 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 clomp. Outside into a wall of sunshine, a beautiful bluebird day. Big inhale. Smell the pines, the fresh air, the snow, the changing environment. Down the stairs. Clang, clang, clang onto the snow. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Can open your eyes, please. We got tissue with the boys, Andrew and RJ, and then after a few practice runs, I pulled together a run that I didn't think would be possible. Tight turns, tight upper body movements, relaxed lower body. It looked like I never missed a day skiing. Just like I visualized, 3 pumps of a poles into a left-hand turn again and again and again. I didn't think that was a possible goal. It was something that said aloud as a moonshot goal. And there I am skiing. It was the best day I've had since brain injury. I was going fast. I was fluid. I was smiling. I was laughing. I was going back to fast again. I used to go fast all the time when I was younger. I used to drive motorcycles. I used to ski race. I used to drive things fast. I used to be a fast guy. With the brain injury, I can't go fast anymore because the vision's not there, and this like the dexterity's not as it used to be, and I miss that. But skiing is phenomenal. That movement of just feeling a bit the skis run a little bit, like, oh, it was incredibly good. But that goal was impossible. Now you will have goals you're aiming at, things you're shooting for. What's holding you back? You're not able to walk, you're able to talk, able to smile. I share this quote from Confucius. I'll share it with the group right now. He goes, "We all have two lives, and the second begins when you realize we only have one." That skiing day was the best day I've had since brain injury, and a validation that says that I do what I say I'm going to do. I outwork my self doubt. I said this goal out loud, not thinking it was possible, but I made it happen. I talk about goal setting a lot in my talks because it's a huge part of this vibe, right? The goal setting started off with like get in the wheelchair in 45 minutes, not 40, or in 40 not 45, and then 35, not 40. Incrementally ratcheting this up. There's a great story I've got about the stairways back to my flat in Hammersmith, 44 stairs, not 100. Just like incrementally identifying the goals you want to accomplish and like backtracking your way towards that. But like goal setting is so key for this. And skiing is a big goal. So thank you for bringing that story up. I enjoy that.
Thank you for sharing. I'm so glad you were able to achieve that goal. Now, if somebody wanted to book you for a speaking engagement, where would they go to find your information?
Thank you. The best way is to go through my website, MacQueen Dan, MacQueen, Dan.com. There you can see my demo reel and also a contact me form, as well as some testimonials and some companies I've worked for in the past, as well as some podcasts I've been on.
What kind of places do you do speaking engagements?
I've done gigs for remote gigs from Spendesk, Hafen Capital in the UK. I've done Group NHS in the UK. I've done Hootsuite in Vancouver. I've done Hollyburn. I've done a CFO in-person conference here in Vancouver. Depends on the mix. I'm trying to get more into associations though. But companies are great as well because like resilience mindset, perspective, like dog fightness, like just perspective shifting stuff I can give you. That's fun, lighthearted. The talks are not dark and dreary. They're fun. They're light. They'll be laughing. They'll be crying. Hopefully not crying too much, but laughing more than crying. And it's a fun time. And I share the stories not to brag about myself and how good I am, mind you, maybe some of that's a little bit in there, but more so to show you what you can do, what's possible, because my story is not impossible, but like improbable, let's say. And I'm here telling you can do it. Why not?
Mm-hmm. It's inspirational. And I
There
will
we go.
say,
That's what
Dan,
we're
you
looking
are
for.
great.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you for being willing to join me on my podcast. I loved having you and meeting you. If you are a listener to the show and you have a story of recovery that you would like to share, head over to bedbackbeyond.com and click share your story. Dan, thank you once again. Definitely inspirational and big impact to a lot of people.
Thank you.